What's up, guys? Welcome to Movie Appointments Flashback Reviews, where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about them. If you like what you see, of course, hit the subscribe button. Join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next, and comment below on any video that you watch on my channel. So we continue our journey to No Time to Die, which is Daniel Craig's last film as James Bond, and we're heading to 1974, which is a year after Live and Let Die came out. Unfortunately, we're going to be talking about The Man with the Golden Gun. Every time I try to talk about this movie, it makes me angry because this movie's terrible. It makes Live and Let Die and some of the other films before that I don't really care for look like masterpieces now. And this is Roger Moore's second film as Bond, and once again proving to me that I'm just a little worried about his character throughout this entire run that he goes through. This brings back Guy Hamilton for the last time in one of the poorest directorial jobs I've ever seen in the Bond franchise. It once again proves that, to me personally, that his only good film in this franchise was Goldfinger, which is crazy because that movie's actually really good for a Bond film. And it's really actually a pretty decent action film. It brings back Richard Maybaum as the script writer, as well as Tom Mankiewicz, unfortunately, as the co-script writer. Tom Mankiewicz, I don't know why they keep bringing him back. He's proven to me that he's just not very good in this role as a writer for this franchise. I don't know what happened. Apparently he was a script doctor or what is called a ghostwriter on some of the other films. So they must see something that I don't see, because maybe it's just the fact that I didn't live in the 70s. So I don't know. But yeah, so this movie is really bad. This movie deals with a lot of weird energy crisis stuff, which was a very prevalent thing in the early 70s. In the Britt and UK, at the time this film was released, it was still an issue. You know, the idea of like solar problems and stuff like that. We all have our different eras of different problems and stuff like that. But they have like a really cool kind of idea weapon where they're using the solar power to create a kind of ray gun. And that is pretty clever. I will give them that. It's kind of fun to watch. But the way they go about getting to that point, it just doesn't work. Nothing about this movie works, even with the ray gun and with Christopher Lee, who's playing actually a quite fun Bond villain as Scaramanga, who has that golden gun that we all know and love from, GoldenEye, the N64 game, as well as just being a great weapon because it's very accurate in its shooting. But Christopher Lee needed something better, because I don't know why he was in this movie. I feel like he was in that era where he was doing Dracula and he was given the opportunity to be a Bond villain, and he went for it with no qualms or worries. And he's still the best part about this movie, because Roger Moore is not good in this movie. He's very stilted. He's very, weird. He's trying to be a gentleman Bond character, but he's just like all over the place with him trying to be funny, and with him is over the topness. And I think Roger Moore is terrible in this movie. I think he's a lot better than Live and Let Die. And I hear Spy Who Loved Me is actually pretty decent. So I'm looking forward to seeing something good come out of this Bond character. But then on top of that, we have Bond going after Scaramanga to find out about this weapon. As it always does, Scaramanga has killed a bunch of people that has alerted MI6. And at the very beginning of this movie, we have a gangster character on Scaramanga's Island, which is where the movie eventually ends up in the very finale of this movie. And he's going there to kill Scaramanga. And he ends up in this funhouse, the gangster in this funhouse that Scaramanga has set up with Herve Villechaize, who plays Tattoo in Fantasy Island, but he's playing Knick Knack here as one of the worst Bond villains. And he goes after, Scaramanga, but because, Knick Knack is messing with both Scaramanga and this gangster, Scaramanga is able to use the golden gun on the villain, or on the gangster, which is a pretty okay sequence. It's not as good as like the Live and Let Die opening sequence. But this leads into a problem of Herve Villechaize's character in this movie. Is he's too similar to Tattoo, but more evil, that it becomes distracting and over the top and weird. I know Herve Villechaize was a pretty popular actor at this time, but his mannerisms, how he reacts to everything, how he does things, maybe it's just his stature and who he was, but it's so off-putting and it's so weird that he just almost doesn't need to be in this movie. He almost feels like a comic relief character that doesn't need to happen. And there's another comic relief character I will talk about in a couple minutes. But they're like running throughout this movie, he is assassinating people because he's a mini assassin, like Mini-Me and Austin Powers. And he is, at one point Bond is captured and he is taken to this village or this training class where they do kung fu, because this movie is very inspired by kung fu movies in certain sequences. And Herve Villechaize is dressed as a kung fu person with no shirt, and he is trying to use a pitchfork to kill James Bond, but it doesn't work out. And there's just a lot of weird moments like that. There's a lot of weird sequences. It's just a lot of weird nature for Herve Villechaize, and I feel kind of bad for him. But it's just like, what is going? Why? What is the purpose of this character? And there's just a lot of bad characters in this movie. You know, we have Maud Adams, who's playing like the one kind of halfway decent Bond character, Bond girl. She's playing like the right hand woman to Scaramanga, but she wants him killed, so she sends the bullet that has 007 on it to MI6. And she ends up getting killed halfway through this movie because of Scaramanga learns of what she does, kind of like in Live and Let Die. And it's just whatever. I kind of feel bad for Maud Adams because she deserved more. Because the main Bond girl in this movie is the worst. It's Britt Ekland, who is a very attractive woman, but the writers gave her a very blonde attitude, a very blonde demeanor, and she is awful in this movie. She is dumb, she is stupid, she makes poor decisions, and how she works for MI6 as the right hand woman to James Bond is beyond me, because obviously he's sleeping with her a bunch of times because she doesn't have any relevance for any other reason. You know, she gets captured by Scaramanga because she's trying to put a homing device in the trunk, but how is Scaramanga and Knick Knack not going to notice that? And then she ends up in a bikini on Scaramanga's island because it's very easy for Scaramanga to keep track of her. And she is being held hostage by this like large man who is attempting to, I swear to God, is going to try and rape her. And she ends up hitting him into the cooling tanks, which is a really stupid idea because if you know anything about cooling tanks, they are there to cool the powering source, and if they are brought up at a certain level, it causes explosions. So she does something stupid there. At some point, Bond and her are trying to get this device out of it, but she accidentally presses the master override button, which causes the laser to start running. It's stuff like that. It's like, once again, doesn't need to be in this movie. I know Goodnight is a character that's well known in the Bond's book series by Ian Fleming, but it's just really, really bad and really off-putting and really kind of disgusting. And I hated it, and I don't understand it, and whatever. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. This movie has all kinds of weird stuff. There is over-the-top action sequences that don't make any sense. There's another water chase sequence that doesn't make any sense in this movie. It just leads for Bond to have a water chase between some Thailandian people. I'm kind of speechless with this movie. I know I've talked a lot about this movie, but this movie just has so many weird moments. And then on top of that, Scaramanga, how he's known in the world is by a third nipple. This guy has a third nipple. I kept going back to Chandler and Friends and thinking of that situation and thinking about how ridiculous a villain with a third nipple really is, because it is bonkers. There is a scene in this movie because we have a character who's played with Richard Liu who plays High Fat, and High Fat is this like wealthy businessman who is working with Scaramanga to get this device. And James Bond comes to his property. He actually breaks into his property, and he's wearing the superfluous third nipple. And then High Fat's like, oh, we'll have dinner. And that's when Bond gets captured and taken to school or whatever. But just stuff like that. It's like, why? Why is a third nipple in this movie? Why is a third nipple in this movie? But there's like I guess it's a fun sequence where Bond is attacking two sumo wrestlers, and he's being squeezed to death, and it's just like, what? He's like, they're just squeezing him to death, but he's rescued, and that's when Herve Villechaize comes in. But the most offensive thing about this movie, the most kind of why, is they brought back Clifton James as J.W. Pepper. You know, I can forgive a lot of things, but bringing back a character that didn't even need to be in this franchise to begin with, and Live and Let Die, just makes it even more worse. It makes this movie even more worse than it already is because of all the weird natures and stuff going on in it. So, some reason, this character from Louisiana has gotten the idea to take his wife, who actually completely disappears halfway through this movie, to Thailand on a vacation. Now, I'm not saying anybody from the South or anybody of his ilk, because he's a very racist stereotype, will not go to Thailand. But J.W. Pepper, Clifton James' character, would not go to Thailand. And the only reason he's in this movie is because Guy Hamilton really enjoyed his character in Live and Let Die. And they're like, find a way to write him into the story. So what do? They give a character like J.W. Pepper a vacation in Thailand. Not only is he in Thailand, but J.W. Pepper is there when a boat chase sequence is happening. He's laughing this time at the boat chase sequence, and then he falls in the river and stuff like that. Well, you're just copying Live and Let Die. That's all you're doing. That's everything you're doing, and you're doing it worse than Live and Let Die. Which that boat chase sequence was actually pretty entertaining. On top of that, they are going after Scaramanga and Knick-Knack because Britt Ekland's character Goodnight she's in the trunk of this car. And some reason, somehow, through some fate of universe, James Bond takes the only vehicle that Pepper is in and wanting to test drive in Thailand. He's test driving a vehicle in Thailand. Why is he in Thailand for one? But why is he test driving a vehicle in Thailand or China or wherever the hell they were at? It doesn't make any sense, and it pisses me off, and it's so frustrating to watch a movie like this that's already bad enough to have a character like this. And they go on this crazy Dukes of Hazzard chase sequence, which it could be kind of fun if it was a Dukes of Hazzard episode. But Scarmander and Knick-Knack end up on this wrong side of the road, or on a different side of the road, or on a different side of the lake between Pepper and James Bond. And there just happens to be a convenient ramp that is actually tilted. So what is Bond gonna do? He's gonna do the one thing you think he's gonna do. He is going to jump that bridge, that ramp, or whatever. But when they jump it, because it's tilted, they actually do a barrel roll with the vehicle to get to the other side. Now I'm like, that's when the movie lost me. That's completely when it lost me. That's when the movie just went completely off the rails. It's bad enough that this movie is about, weird characters doing weird stuff, with a very terrible James Bond, with a very terrible agent to his side, with the fact that he is somehow attracted to this woman, that he beds the Maud Adams character while she's in the closet, the Britt Ekland character, while she's in the closet. So that's bad enough as it is. But then on top of that, they finally get to this shed where Scaramanga has his like little style lair, and they are able to attach a plane to this car and take off in this car plane. And Sheriff Pepper thinks because he's in the country and he's a sheriff, he can talk down the Thailand police like they're ridiculous morons, and they arrest him, and that's the last time we see Pepper for this entire franchise, thank God. But it just breaks my brain of why he's in this movie, and it hurts every facet of my logic to even talk about this movie because of stuff like that. It's just, when you get to the final conclusion, when James Bond is going after Britt Ekland's character, when he's going to take down Scaramanga, it is an interesting sequence because Christopher Lee's character Scaramanga is very infatuated with James Bond's character because James Bond is known as the best killer in the world, and Scaramanga actually kind of relays an interesting story about how he is what he loves to do. He loves to be an assassin, so he kind of idolizes James Bond for who he is, which is something that doesn't happen a lot because James Bond, especially in this day and age, is known for a guy that kills a lot of people and makes people uncomfortable. So to have that kind of coolish, villainish style character arc is really kind of interesting. But like I said, all the stuff that's leading up to it, the sumo wrestling and J.W. Pepper and all just this garbage, it really just dampers the fact of what Scaramanga is, which is a pretty decent villain. And I feel ashamed for Christopher Lee in this movie, man. He is trying so hard to raise a script that is just terrible. And it really shows that the script of the movie is terrible because it's the fourth lowest grossing Bond film of history. So, yeah, I mean, they end up back in that funhouse, and James Bond, of course, kills Scaramanga. And at the very end of the movie, like in Live and Let Die, this movie is actually mirroring Live and Let Die a lot. At the very end, they the Herve Villechaize character gets put into a crate and stuff like that, so his character is like goofy and how he dies. It's not good. This movie is the worst in the franchise so far. It's definitely not as bad as Die Another Day, which is probably the worst Bond film, but this is pretty close. So the last thing I want to talk about is John Barry, who is pretty much the main composer for this franchise up to this point, was given 3 weeks. That's right, 3 weeks to do the score for this movie. You can really tell, and I'm sure he was stressed out as all hell. It is the most uninspired piece of garbage I've ever heard. It is not good. There's nothing redeeming about it. It really feels just like a complete rush job. And I feel bad for John Barry because some of his scores are amazing. Goldfinger has an amazing score. Thunderball has an amazing score. You Only Live Twice has an amazing score. And Her Majesty's Secret Service has an amazing score. John Barry's a fantastic composer. But he was put into such an outrageous position that it really shows. You rush things. You have production problems. The things are going to start falling apart. You're going to start seeing the seams. And it becomes a problem. And then they had 2 artists that they were going to go with for the theme song. And they went with an artist named Lulu, which I don't know very much about. But if it's anything like this song, maybe they just didn't know what to do with her with the song, because it is also another rush job. It also feels out of place. It just doesn't fit with the movie. Actually, it kind of does, because it's terrible. Just straight out say it. The song is terrible. It's bad. It's one of the worst things in the Bond franchise for a song take. And I'm not blaming Lulu because she was there to write a song, but the song is just bad. Really, really bad. And then they could have chosen Alice Cooper, which Alice Cooper was really hot at the time. He's a very famous musician at the time as well, doing some really good stuff. And I would have been really interested to see his song in this movie, because I think it would have worked a lot better. Now, apparently it has been released when it released with the time the movie came out, so I would be interested to listen to it because I haven't yet. But it just feels like it'd be a much more inspired choice, much more interesting choice than what we got with Lulu. So, I mean, it is what it is. It is there now. It's part of the Bond franchise lore. But yeah, oh my god, the score and the music is not good. So there we go. I'm glad I'm not talking about this movie anymore, because, like I said, the movie sucks. It's not good. It's going to be down there with Die Another Day, so prepare when I do my top 25 of this franchise. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you truly think of this movie. If you like it, that's perfectly fine. I feel for you, or I feel sad for you. If you don't like it, amen too. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. And of course, comment below on any of my videos. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next Bond film, which is The Spy Who Loved Me. Peace out. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button and the bell at the top. Find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these 2 videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.